Well, for 49ers fans, it's Victory Monday, and we have the banner up. We'll have the banner up all week. We might have this one up for the rest of the season. 49ers football torture. I started off last night's video by putting this up, comparing the 49ers to the San Francisco Giants 2010, 2012, 2014. There's a lot of torture, so I think we could just move it over to the football realm. And one reason that there was torture yesterday is because of this guy on the screen. Jimmy Garoppolo missed that pass intended for Trent Sherfield. I believe I was saying Ayuk last night, but it was Trent Sherfield. You have to forgive me. It was like 2 a.m. It doesn't matter who the intended receiver was because the pass was never going to get to the intended receiver. It sailed on Garoppolo, was intercepted, opened the door for the Cowboys to get back into the game, and it opened up a whole new battle in the Garoppolo wars, which have been going on for a long, long time inside the 49ers fan base. And I have Marcus Thompson's column on Jimmy Garoppolo up next to me because I think that it was a really thoughtful and well-done piece to encapsulate the totality of the situation. The complete picture of Jimmy Garoppolo was on display in the 49ers' thrilling win over Dallas. And, I'll just read the first paragraph here because Marcus is always really good putting the pen to paper, putting an entire situation and its context into words. And we were texting right before he wrote this article, and he didn't think it was good. And I read it and I was blown away. I'm like, Marcus, you hit this one out of the park. If football is art, then Sunday was an expressionist painting of Jimmy Garoppolo's career. Beautiful and haunting, inspiring and maddening, resilient and fragile. It was a masterpiece of performance, not for its perfection, hardly for its brilliance, but for its spectacular accuracy in conveying the range of intense reactions he provokes. It was an authentic rendering of the emotional journey that is the Jimmy G experience. And the Jimmy G experience is intertwined with torture. The 49ers football torture. Now, you can't have torture that feels so good. And big picture, the 49ers went into Dallas and won a road playoff game over a team that was number 1 DVOA and number 2 defense DVOA. And Garoppolo was the quarterback. Big picture, they got it done. If you are an unbiased 49ers fan, and that may be an oxymoron, but if you're, an unbiased observer, or if you're a reasonable fan, you will say that feels good. If you know the history of this franchise, they've only won 6 road playoff games in their entire franchise history. So if you know the history of the franchise and the history of the rivalry and what was at stake, and if you understand how good Dallas was and where the 49ers came from this season, you're enjoying this win. And you're giving Garoppolo due credit for his part in the win because he had the part in the win. But if you're also looking at this with full perspective, you're saying, oh boy, he wasn't close to perfect. And some of the stuff that he did late in the game was a contributing factor to making it so hairy at the end. So 2 things can be true at once. And the problem with the Jimmy Garoppolo experience is every quarterback has some level of inconsistency. But Jimmy's inconsistency and the lows seem to emotionally affect the 49ers a little bit more than some other quarterbacks' inconsistencies. And it's hard to pinpoint exactly why. But and maybe it's just because we're following along on social media as we watch these games, but when Garoppolo throws a pick like the one that he did yesterday, it seems that there's this cloud of doom and this feeling that the wheels are completely falling off. And sometimes it can, snowball. Like the 49ers, maybe it's because the 49ers are so rooted in complementary football that turnovers seem to gut punch them more than other teams, if that makes sense. So giveaways just really hurt them, like the one yesterday. But there's such a binary way of thinking now on social media that people can't separate the good that Garoppolo does and the bad that Garoppolo does. So people just get really tribalistic and they run off into one direction or the other. When in reality, there were 2 directions in this game. The first direction was the first, 2+, maybe even 3+ quarters of Jimmy Garoppolo, plus efficient football. He was making great throws, especially in the first half. And he was really proving a lot of the one size fits all takes that are just asinine. He was just proving them wrong. Like, oh, Garoppolo can't throw outside the numbers. Well, Garoppolo was throwing outside the numbers. He bailed the 49ers out on a couple third and longs by throwing outside the numbers. That throw to Jawan Jennings early on, 3rd and 10, I believe. Deep out pattern, right on the money. I'll tell you what, it dispelled the take that Garoppolo can't throw, is physically unable to do it. Threw that take right out the window. He is capable of making that throw. You can't say that he's not when he actually makes it. There was a quick release to Deebo Samuel on a 3rd down. He was on schedule and safe with throws downfield. Brandon Ayuk on that longer one, you could tell the safety was coming in over the top, so he doesn't want to lead Ayuk fully to leave him out to dry. He wants to set Ayuk up for yards after the catch. That's tremendously hard on a pass that's traveling, 30 to 35 yards downfield. So he sets Ayuk up to cut inside, kind of zag over the field and get another big gain. Every single point that the 49ers got in that first half ended up very valuable in their quest to win this game. Imagine if Robbie Gould hadn't hit one of those 50-yard field goals. So if the 49ers hadn't gotten into position to set up Robbie Gould for those field goals, well, then they would only be up by 3 near the end of the game. And Dak Prescott wouldn't have attempted that really dumb play of running to the middle of the field with no timeouts and 14 seconds left. The Cowboys would be thinking more about getting in field goal range and tying the game. So everything that the 49ers did in the first half offensively contributed to them holding on later. And Jimmy Garoppolo needs to get credit for that. He also needs to get some credit for the fact that he didn't get sacked in this game, even though Dallas has made a living off of sacks from the edge. He was getting the ball out quickly and on time. And then you have to be concerned because the 49ers are so, they tumultuously follow this up and down path as a team. This is not just Garoppolo, but you have to be concerned with Garoppolo's role in that up and down path. And the fact that he sailed that pass to Brandon Ayuk first and then over Trent Sherfield's head for the interception. And to that, we need to also remember that Jimmy is still playing with a torn ligament in his thumb. It was really weird how that was the only story on everybody's mind in the days leading up to the Rams game, and how that was just a total afterthought in the days leading up to this game against the Cowboys. And the truth of the matter is that injury is still there. The ligament's still torn. It was expected to take 4 to 6 weeks to heal after the Tennessee game, and we're not at that point of time yet. And I'm not 100% sure on this, but based on what I've heard, Jimmy Garoppolo playing through this is not speeding up the healing process. Full rest might fully speed up the healing process, but playing in NFL games, throwing the football, I forgot how many times he threw the ball yesterday, but throwing it 20 to 30 times a game, going through the practice motions over the course of the week, warming up, that's going to put stress on the thumb. So he's still throwing with a compromised thumb, and that's extremely important to keep in mind. And I thought that was really, really evident on the pass to Kittle. Kittle fumbled, but ended up being ruled incomplete. That ended up being a huge break, but CBS showed the XMO of the play, and you could almost tell that Garoppolo, when he threw it, it looks like he threw it without the thumb. And I think as the course of this game went along, Garoppolo's thumb was feeling worse and worse. Now, that's something that he'll never admit in public. And that's something that he shouldn't admit in public, because it's going to give the 49ers a competitive disadvantage moving forward. And they have a huge game in the divisional playoffs against the Packers next week. But the truth of the matter is that it didn't look like he had a good grip on that ball to Kittle. And it looked like that ball moving to Sherfield sailed on him. And obviously he didn't hit the ball to Ayuk. You do have to wonder, how is this torn ligament in his thumb affecting him? Because just because he's been able to overcome it on certain throws doesn't mean he can overcome it on all throws. And that's absolutely something that objectively we need to monitor moving forward against Green Bay, because this game is not going to be kind to thumb injuries. It's going to be close to 0 degrees at night at Lambeau Field on Saturday. And I don't know exactly how that can affect how Garoppolo's hand and thumb feels, but I can tell you it never is pleasant to get hit, and it definitely isn't pleasant to get hit in cold weather. And I don't know what kind of effect it's going to have to throw in cold weather, but everything, right, is a little bit more, maybe the numbness of the cold weather will help, but everything is going to be tested to a greater degree at Lambeau Field. But just in a general football sense, Jimmy Garoppolo against the Green Bay Packers is going to be the centerpiece, I think, for the 49ers. There's going to be a spotlight on him and what he can do because he's going to be facing Aaron Rodgers on the other side of the field. And the 49ers are going to have to score points to win this game. Yesterday, I talked about the defense. And when the 49ers last saw the Packers in week 3, their defense was a lot worse than it is now. They gave up 30 points to the Packers in that game. So I think it's completely reasonable the 49ers hold Green Bay to 23 or 24 in this game. The defense has improved significantly. So perhaps you can expect a touchdown less out of Green Bay than they scored 3.5 months ago against the 49ers. But that still means that to win this game, the 49ers will have to theoretically go to Lambeau Field at night in prime time on short rest against the Packers team coming off a bye, and they're going to have to find a way to put up at least 24 points. And to be safe against Aaron Rodgers, maybe they're going to have to put up 30 points. I don't know how it's going to end up, panning out, but we're still waiting on Nick Bosa's concussion protocol this week. We're still waiting on Fred Warner's ankle this week. To get to the NFC Championship game, it might be a situation where the 49ers offense has to get to 30. Maybe not, but either way, they're going to have to be really effective and efficient. They're going to have to play keep away from Aaron Rodgers. They're going to have to balance the run and the pass. They're going to have to take advantage of the fact that the weakness of this Green Bay team is on the defensive side of the ball. And that puts the focus on Jimmy Garoppolo, whether you like it or not. And this is why the 49ers brought him back and why it was a good move to bring him back, even though they have Trey Lance developing behind the scenes, because Jimmy Garoppolo is a winner. He leads wins. He's consistently done that throughout the course of his career. He is efficient in the short game, and he also has an interception rate that's a little too high for the 49ers' liking. Both of those things can coexist at once. So which Garoppolo is going to show up for most of this game against Green Bay, and can the good Garoppolo show up for close to 60 minutes? I thought he made good decisions against the Dallas Cowboys. The interception was not a decision issue. The interception was a ball that sailed on him over an open Trent Sherfield. So perhaps that's a good thing for the 49ers. If your quarterback is executing and making good decisions in the playoffs, and the Packers have a worse defense than the Cowboys, you might have something cooking. But, there's the decision issue, which I think Garoppolo was fine with yesterday, but there's the accuracy issue, especially with the thumb, which started okay and went worse throughout the course of the game. So where's that going to be? So you have two coexisting things. But at the end of the day, Garoppolo is still the best quarterback for the 49ers to overcome an offensive line that does give up quite a bit of pressure. He can get that ball out quickly. He got it out quickly again yesterday. I thought he moved around in the pocket better than he has really all season yesterday, stepping up, making some throws. It goes back to the end of the Rams game when he stepped up to make that really great throw to Deebo Samuel. But, just look at Marcus's column. I'm going to put it up on the comment section. There was a dichotomy of performance going on from Jimmy Garoppolo. You had the good, you had the bad, and they both coexisted. And because people are so binary with this, because they have to run off into one camp or the other, they can't appreciate the fact that, two things can be true at once. And which of the two things is more true generally determines whether or not the 49ers win a game, because quarterback is the most important position. I will say, though, right now, as we open my article and take a look at one piece of data that I think is really important in this game, I will say that if you really, really want to look at bad quarterback performance, look at Dak Prescott yesterday. This is the comparison between both quarterbacks. Garoppolo was mediocre to under a little bit under the median. First half was good, second half was bad, but you don't see much green on here, if any, none on Garoppolo's column. But Prescott was worse. Prescott was more inaccurate. Prescott was less efficient. Prescott's QBR was horrific. So at the end of the day, the 49ers had the better quarterback on the field in a playoff game yesterday. And all that matters at this point is winning. This nitpicking, I'll do it, but I'll do it with perspective. And the truth is that the 49ers have won 6 playoff games on the road in their history. One with John Brodie in 1970, one with Montana in 88, none with Steve Young in the 90s, 3 with Kaepernick in 2012 and the 2013 seasons. One of those with Kaepernick came at Green Bay in really cold weather. So the 49ers are going to have a reprisal of that. And number 6 obviously came with Garoppolo yesterday. So it's not easy to win on the road. And the fact the 49ers beat the number 1 team in DVOA on the road is impressive. So it wasn't pretty, but Garoppolo did enough to get the job done. Obviously, the 49ers can't have those massive pendulum swings as the road will presumably get tougher. But the good news is that pendulum swing happened yesterday when the 49ers could overcome it. Now Jimmy Garoppolo has a chance to go toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers, which he's already done this year. Garoppolo has gone toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers. He did it back in week 3. In fact, if the 49ers defense doesn't collapse at the end of that game, then they win. And Garoppolo's credited with that game-winning drive. Found Kyle Juszczyk with 37 seconds left. So it's as simple as that. I mean, that was the initial installment of torture, right? Back in week 3, kind of set the tone for how this 49ers season was going to go when they blew that lead. Defense is a lot better now. Jimmy Garoppolo, we'll see where he's at. He started the season shaky. He was even inconsistent early in that Green Bay game. Then he was really efficient for a long, long stretch with those blips, obviously, against Seattle and Tennessee. And then he delivered kind of a microcosm of his season, like really efficient, in the game against Dallas, efficient early, not efficient late. This story is fascinating. It's compelling. It's one that, you can't look down. You're zeroed in on it because you want to know how the story ends. And if Garoppolo delivers a good game against Aaron Rodgers and he beats him in Lambeau Field, oh boy, it's going to go crazy around here. If he delivers a bad game, it's going to go crazy around here. Either way, it's great television, right? It's compelling theater. But Garoppolo is the 49ers man this year. He's the 49ers man because he's a big reason why they're in the playoffs. He's a big reason they won that game yesterday because they had to be efficient in the first half to get the job done. And he's a big reason why that game ended up being so torturous and interesting because he did have a couple big screw-ups in the second half, missing Ayuk and missing Sherfield for the interception. Everything coexisted. We can acknowledge that it all coexisted without running to one truth and fighting over it. We can look at this intelligently, and we could say that the 49ers are moving on with something that's really rare, and that's a road playoff win. So regardless of how they got there, Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback for it. And, whatever black and white truth you're trying to spout and have in your head, it's probably not nuanced enough to actually appreciate the full situation. So this story isn't done yet. Every game is a chapter of a larger novel. And I can't wait to see how this novel ends. And it might not end next week against Green Bay. I think the 49ers have a really good chance to win. Number 22 defense for the Packers. That's worse than the Cowboys, who were number 2. And the 49ers defense is a lot better than it was in week 3. This is not some plucky underdog going into Green Bay with a remote chance to win. I think this is a real good chance for the 49ers to go toe-to-toe with the Packers just like they did in week 3. I mean, it was only 2 years ago the 49ers dominated the Packers twice. And I think the 49ers defensive line looks a whole lot more like it did in 2019 than it did back in week 3. This right here is not a fair criticism. The 49ers snapped the ball with 12 seconds left to play because they weren't sure they were going to score a touchdown. This isn't Madden. You have to get the ball across the goal line. It's not guaranteed. You see that time and time again. He led them to a touchdown. They scored. And one of the reasons the 49ers scored because Green Bay was gassed. They were on their heels. The 49ers liked the look. So you snap the ball with 12 seconds left. He did his job. He led the 49ers in a comeback and a game-winning drive and a score. The defense didn't do its job. Aaron Rodgers didn't have any timeouts, and the defense gave up 42 yards over 2 completions. These are the kind of criticisms that just, it's people. When people are reaching to try to criticize, you end up criticizing unfairly. Let's criticize where it's fair. If the guy leads a potential game-winning drive, in tough circumstances, let's not nitpick that. Right, in ways that would only be reasonable in a video game. Let's criticize Garoppolo for the errant throw yesterday. Let's criticize Garoppolo for, trying to just being over aggressive sometimes in a situation where it doesn't call for that aggressiveness. Let's talk about the inconsistency that we've seen. Let's talk about how the thumb might be affecting him. But stuff like this, I mean, it goes too far, and then I think criticism loses some credibility. Jimmy was clutch on third downs, but a lot of people want to turn a blind eye to that fact. 6 of 9 on third down. Yeah, he was really, really good on third down. He threw outside the numbers yesterday. I thought he was solid in those situations. And that was a big reason the 49ers built the lead. So again, look at both truths. Look at the truth of efficient Garoppolo building a lead that ultimately won the 49ers the game. And look at the truth of Garoppolo being shakier at the end. But even when he was shaky, he converted some big third downs. He found Jawan Jennings on that one. Jennings sat down on the hook pattern. That was tough situation for the 49ers. The crowd was moving against them. They had to move the chains. Garoppolo got the job done. He's also managing the run game at the line of scrimmage. Again, there's a reason why he's the most efficient option for the 49ers and a reason why he's been plus efficiency, top 7, top 5 this year in efficiency out of all quarterbacks. It's because the guy's on the aggregate getting the job done. And that's why we look at those analytics, because on the aggregate, it removes some of these polarizing biases that we have in either direction with Jimmy Garoppolo. All right, guys. I mean, this is ridiculous. I literally just read a comment that was critical of Jimmy Garoppolo. I read one comment that was critical and one comment that was in his favor. So, and I put your comment up there too. So I think that really disproves your theory. Good stuff, guys. I have to get going right now. I'm going to have to catch a flight home from Dallas here pretty soon. So that's the story of Jimmy Garoppolo. Read Marcus's column. It's way more nuanced than people want to think. So let's be fair about this. Let's be thoughtful about this. And let's be happy that the 49ers and Packers get to recreate a great rivalry in the 1990s. We talked about the Cowboys all week. Let's talk about Green Bay this week. Everybody take care.